The Knicks get a 2-0 back-to-back weekend wins over Atlanta and Phoenix, but the big story through it all, even on the weekend Jalen Brunson returned, OG Anunoby is playing like a superstar. Let's talk about it right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And he is Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And today, we have a great show for you guys. We're going to be talking about a sweepy weekend, 2-0 over the weekend for the Knicks. Wins over Atlanta on Saturday before everybody made their grand returns, and then a more or less full strength Knicks team coming back on Sunday against Phoenix. Jalen Brunson returned, Deuce McBride returned, Campaign returned on Saturday, and it was just a feel-good weekend all around, mostly highlighted by the fact that OG Anunoby is just going bonkers right now. So we're gonna lead by talking about him. But first, we want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making this part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit that auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And if that's not enough, Locked On Knicks for you any given day. Your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily Newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. And keep your ears peeled later on in the show when we tell you how you could potentially win a huge prize, honestly staggering prize for being simply just being a newsletter subscriber over the course of this month. So stay tuned for that, and we'll get that to you shortly. But first, Gavin, we got to start by talking about these two big wins for the Knicks over the weekend. So first, just absolutely drub the Hawks 121-105. The game was not nearly as close as the final score might indicate. It was pretty much a laugher almost the whole way through, highlighted by Karl-Anthony Towns. Had 30 points in this one, 10 of 15 shooting, 11 boards, 3 assists. And then Jalen Brunson makes his big return against Phoenix on Sunday, 112-98. The Knicks beat them. Brunson, maybe looking a little rusty, a little bit like he's still trying to find his groove, which is understandable. The guy's been out for a while, but the connecting tissue between these two games, OG Anunoby, 24 points in that Atlanta game, 4 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks, shot 9 of 17 overall, 2 of 4 from 3. And then even with Brunson back, 32 points. He just absolutely steals the show against Phoenix. 13 of 17 from the floor, 6 of 8 from 3, 6 boards, 3 assists, no steals, no blocks in that one, but just another phenomenal outing for him. I mean, what is happening with OG right now? This felt to me more than any of the games recently in this 10 game streak that he's currently on with 20 points or more. These two games, for whatever reason, just felt like the one where my mind finally shifted and went, what are we looking at right now?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week, right? Where I don't know if you agreed with me on this. I was a little reticent to accept what I was seeing, only in the sense that obviously the first 18 games of the season, he was so incredibly hot and shooting the ball so well. But this is different just in that, like, the sustained aggressiveness going downhill, obviously buoyed by the fact that there's been no Jalen Brunson. Like, the Knicks need him to take on the ball reps, and they need him to attack the basket. But Alex, the names I put in my notes at different points over the weekend were Baby Shaq, Zion, Giannis, Bron, Melo, because he had 2 different, like, no dribble, like, jab corner threes, like, just a ridiculous weekend. Like, the Hawks game, I guess what stood out the most was just like it was like Saquon Barkley doing like one-on-one running back drills at Penn State, like literally like a man amongst boys. Like I desperately, especially because the Hawks don't have their first round pick. So it wasn't a tanking maneuver. Cannot comprehend Atlanta not putting Dyson Daniels on OG. And I think he took that personally because he just took turns basically bulldozing everyone else on that team and then frequently finishing over Dyson at the rim and help. But just it was over and over again, whether it was transition, whether it was semi-transition, whether it was in the half court. Like, it didn't really matter who was on him. Like, he would just walk them down, get to the rim. Poor Zachariah Richer, who's going to be a good player, having a great rookie season. Like, OG would just get there and then hit him with an armbar. He would go flying and he would dunk it. I mean, same thing with the Suns. They tried to put Ryan Dunn, like another fantastic rookie, on him. OG would just get downhill, armbar him, dunk it. But the stretch of the weekend was obviously the third quarter against the Suns, where he scored 19 points in 8 minutes and 20 seconds to start that quarter. Had a stretch of 8 straight where again he was going downhill. They were like, I think a big theme is like Tom Thibodeau's trust in him has clearly gone up to the point that like they're using him in screening action. Like, they're having Cat screen for him. He's dribbling around and hitting threes. They're having Hart come up and screen from him. He's playing kind of the Bridges role, attacking Nick Richards and hitting along too. Threes off of ball movement. But the two last buckets of that sequence were my two favorites. Got Oso Ighodaro on a switch when between the legs, crossover, Hezzy, Booker slid over to try to help, mini Euro between the two of them, still able to dunk it despite not having much momentum left. And the next possession, I don't know what Mikal Bridges was thinking, just dribbled the air out of the basketball. They throw OG like a literal grenade with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, and he just casually hits like a step back 25-footer in Oso's eye. 19 points at that point, 7 of 7 shooting. I mean, he does sort of look like a superstar again. I'm hesitant to say, well, this is just who he is now, because he's been a completely different guy the rest of his career, but we're clearly seeing something happen here, Alex.
Yeah, and it's sort of reminiscent in some ways of seeing like the transformation that, and I mean it's a little different because of how it happened for Randall, but it's sort of similar to seeing what happened with Randall back in the day, right? Like later in the career, like 26, 27 years old, and all of a sudden just completely it becomes a completely different basketball player. I mean, that was the year, or I guess actually, yeah, technically it was Randall's like age 26 season, but that was when he kind of turned the corner from like a good player like to a great player for the Knicks. And so maybe it's not totally out of the question. It might just be a really hot stretch, but hey, I mean, as a guy who's also like a Mets fan, right? Like, although this ended up being a late career change for him too. So I guess it if this is what it ends up being for OG, then cool. But like, if this ends up being his like Danny Murphy 2015 moment where he just gets ridiculously hot right before the playoffs and just carries it through the playoffs and maybe turns it into a magical run for the Knicks and then relatively falls back to earth, although Murphy definitely did not fall back to earth for the next couple of years for the Nationals after that, after the Mets let him walk. So, hopefully that nothing like that happens. Although I guess the Knicks have OG locked up. So maybe, yeah, actually, yes, let's have that happen where he just keeps playing just that good after the playoffs or whatever. But yeah, you just got to hope that, he could keep this going. I'm with you. I mean, the thing that makes me less cautious is that we're seeing stuff that he's never done before, and it just seems like a comfort level issue. Like, it always seemed to me like he was never comfortable enough with his handle to try things, and all of a sudden it seems like, I don't know, the practice reps are just hitting at this point, like, and it's starting to feel right for him in a game, because the biggest thing is that the handle has just gotten so much better. I mean, he's doing stuff like lulling guys to sleep on the perimeter with crossovers, and like the first step looks more explosive than it's ever looked ever for him, and like his first step has been good, like from a standstill against a closeout before, but never against like a set defender who's got his arms out, who's doing everything he can to stop him from doing what he wants to do. And he's like taking good defenders off the dribble this way, hitting him with a couple dribbles, getting right by. And then, the one, I mean, you mentioned it already, but the blow by dunk in the third quarter during that run right before the bang 3-pointer was just crazy. I mean, it's just like, what has gotten into this guy? And I mean, even right down to at the end of the game, busting out a 360 in garbage time, like, it's just so anti OG. And to hear him even speaking about himself recently, saying flat out, like, I think I deserve to be NBA all defense this year. I think that I should be defensive player of the year this year. Like, it just seems like he's carrying himself with a new confidence. And sometimes those things are not really something that you can quantify. You know what I mean? Like we can obviously quantify the great numbers that he's putting up and everything, but there's no way to like see what has flipped in his head that has all of a sudden made him this good, like and this quickly, where he's all of a sudden a absolute force, like scoring like 25 a game on a team that I don't want to say desperately needed another guy like that, but like if
I
they
mean,
want to
with Brunson out, kind of, right?
with Brunson out, they definitely did. But even like looking towards a fully healthy team
Mhm.
going into the playoffs, I would argue like the Knicks kind of with Mikal not quite finding that consistency this year. Like they needed someone else they knew they could count on for offense going into the playoffs, considering that, they have Brunson and Cat, but I think every team kind of needs that third guy that they know that they can lean on a bit in the playoffs for scoring. And like it feels like OG has just kind of taken that and been like, maybe I'm not even the third guy. Maybe I'm the second guy. Like maybe I'm even, on some nights going to be the first guy that you look to score in the playoffs. So we'll see how it goes. But like right now, it's hard not to buy into it a bit with how he's carrying himself and what we're seeing play out on the court right now.
Yeah, I think the only cold water I'll throw on it, and I think we're planning on doing a full episode discussing this tomorrow, so I don't want to steal too much from that, but the shooting, like I don't think is quite sustainable. So it's 10 straight games with at least 23 points, but it's really the last 8 is where he's gone insane, right? 28 and a half, 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. Over that stretch, he's shooting 58% from the field, 47% on 7 3-point attempts per game, and 92% from the foul line. And part of it is like the defenses they've played, like on the whole, have not been great. Like the really good defenses they played are the Clippers. The Blazers have been a good, if not elite, defense for a very long stretch now, and the Cavs. So they played 3 pretty good defenses. So maybe I shouldn't like totally whitewash that and say like it doesn't mean anything. But like I don't think he's going to quite shoot like this the rest of the, even if he starts getting slightly easier looks, which you saw a little of tonight, just by the sheer fact that Jalen Brunson is back. And I think there are still going to be questions going forward of like, does he get this many shot attempts every night, even if he does keep playing like this, as you incorporate Jalen Brunson to the offense? Because as we're going to talk about in just a sec, Brunson was ready to defer tonight when he didn't totally have his fastball. Like how are you going to make that all work? Again, that stuff we'll get into a little bit next segment, and of course tomorrow. But let's dive deep, Alex, on Jalen Brunson's re-debut and how that went for the New York Knicks.
But first, we want to let you know about our friends over at Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Jeez, are they reading my mind? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. And let me tell you, the all-in-one convenience is what does it for me, because instead of juggling multiple apps, you can just use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. I'm the type of guy that needs all that in one place. It's too much to keep up with everything in terms of my money all the time. So definitely my favorite feature of Monarch. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, Gavin, we're back in to keep talking through the 2-0 weekend, but more specifically in this one, we're going to zoom in a little bit on this win on Sunday over the Suns. As fun as it is to beat up on Trae Young on his home floor, obviously nothing was going to come close excitement-wise to getting the full team back and healthy for the first time pretty much all season. Or has it been all season? Like since
No, I
Mitch
mean,
came?
they've been who was that when Mitch came back? I feel like everyone was around.
That's what I'm trying to think. Was
Yeah.
everybody available when Mitch came back? But it's the first time where it feels like Mitch is like back up and running.
Incorporated? Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like everybody is up and running. So it felt significant to have the whole squad together. They come through with a 112-98 win over Phoenix. Brunson himself, a little rusty. though I won't say bad. Like, I thought that he still played good. 15 points, 3 of 9 shooting, 1 of 4 from the 3-point line, but got to the line 10 times and made 8 of them. Also had 6 assists. Gavin, to me, the big thing that stood out in this one was, I mean, we just led by talking about OG and how dominant he was and everything. I think the big thing that stood out to me was Brunson coming in and looking a little more deferential than before he went down with the injury. And of course, I think that part of why he wasn't as deferential prior to going down with the injury was because nobody else could make a shot at that particular moment. Like, he was just having to carry these guys, because even if he would set the table for a 3 for OG or Mikal, or get the ball to Cat or whatever, it just seemed like nobody had it going right before he got hurt, and he was having to just like bail them out with huge fourth quarters and clutch shot making and everything else for weeks prior to when he got hurt with that ankle injury, which is what made it feel really sky is falling at that particular moment. But since he's been out, we've seen guys kind of step in, like Mikal Bridges, kind of finding his rhythm a little more, and managing the offense. We've seen Josh Hart kind of find his swag again. OG Anunoby, obviously, we talked about in the first segment, and even Karl-Anthony Towns, like going back to being a 25 to 30 point per game scorer on any given night. I felt like the big thing that I saw in this one was that Brunson took a little bit of time to kind of like find his groove early, and it seemed like he was kind of, ISOing a bit to start. But as this game went on, it seemed like he just deferred more and more, and the offense ran better and better. And, outside of one stretch in the third quarter where Phoenix got it back to within 5 points, I think it was the closest they ever got it, this team just kind of hummed for like the final 3 quarters or so. And I thought that a lot of that was the fact that, like, we got to see some off-ball Brunson, and like as he gets back up to speed again and starts shooting good percentage and whatever again, like I love seeing, we talk about it all the time, but like I love seeing him off ball. I love seeing him get catch and shoot 3 opportunities and stuff like that. And with how all of his teammates are playing right now, I feel like we're kind of lining up for that going towards this final stretch of the season.
Yeah, I enjoyed the game from him. I think maybe watching it on delay and having the context that, all right, he's not going to come out and score a lot, and the shot's going to be a little off. And I don't believe this was true in the past, but it might just be that I'm paying slightly closer attention this year. I've noticed a bigger vacillation in terms of just like how much burst he has on any given night. Like there are some games where he, like, I don't want to call him prime Allen Iverson, but there are some games where he has some jets in his shoes, right? And he's just toasting guys off the dribble, getting a ton of separation, getting like runway layups. And then there are nights like where he's not getting a ton of separation. This is probably certainly since the beginning of the year, the night that he's looked the most lead-footed. And of course, that would be the case coming off not playing a game in I think, basically a month at this point, right? 15 full games he missed. And shout out to the Knicks going 9-6 over the course of that stretch and surviving. But to your point, I thought he was really crafty in terms of his ability to get to the free throw line after a little bit of a slow start, setting guys up, like hit OG for a jam pretty early, hit Deuce for 3 pretty early. And what I really enjoyed as the game went along was his ability to just string out double teams. Like I thought my single favorite sequence of the game was Mitchell Robinson swatting Colin Gillespie, Josh Hart pushing the ball, zipping it cross court. Brunson like giving a little head and shoulder fake, toasting Colin Gillespie. Second guy comes over to help, keeps his dribble, look away, live dribble, underhanded bouncer to Mikal on a full sprint for a reverse layup. And then as the fourth quarter went along, and the Knicks like really struggled in the fourth quarter, right? They were up by 17 at the end of the third. They scored 9 seconds into the fourth, and then they went 7.5 minutes without getting another field goal. Only scored 6 points over that stretch. Really needed Brunson to figure some stuff out down the stretch. And man, he did a good job of it. Like first at the end of the third quarter, drawing 2, slipping to Bridges, who then found Shamet cross court for 3. That ended the third quarter. And then like late in this game, like Suns like sprinting into another double on him. And man, the clutch gene that wasn't hurt in the 15 games out, right? Like left wing 3, 104-94, essentially put the game away. So that was a big shot for him. And his confidence, the question going forward for me is like, how does this look as Brunson sort of gets back to being 100%? Brunson, like, does this team have continued issues figuring out I guess the ecosystem, for lack of a better term? The good news is like these final 4 games or so like don't really matter for the New York Knicks. So against good competition, they'll have a chance to work this out in real time. The bad news is 4 games is a pretty small window to maybe find the optimized version of this team.
Yeah, for sure. And if they are going to find the optimized version, I figure we should also give a shout out to Deuce McBride, who made his comeback in this game. And I thought that he flashed exactly what I wanted to see out of him. Like,
Mhm.
didn't miss a beat as far as 3-point shooting, 2 of 4 from 3. Great defense, had 2 steals, like was all over the place. I mean, he didn't end up with a rebound, but I feel like every single rebound he was in the mix for it. And that was noticeable to me, just like seeing him fly around, throw his body around on defense and getting after boards and just like being out in transition, everything else. I loved what I saw to Deuce in this game coming back too. So I thought that, as much as the presence of Brunson in the starting lineup was great, I thought that another another thing that really stood out to me as far as like things that I was waiting to see again and was very thankful to see again was Deuce McBride and Campaign out there together again off the bench. Like the playmaking that they brought, the shooting that they brought. I mean, Campaign didn't have like a really crazy like scoring game, but moved the ball well, got 6 assists. Like Deuce just hitting those threes when you needed them and everything else. Like he was a stabilizing presence. I was very glad. As awesome as it is, like the headline is getting Jalen Brunson back, the subhead is getting Deuce McBride back. I was very happy with his return game as well.
Yeah, I thought I'll take a second shout out Payne as well. I thought he both games was really good. Like him and Precious sort of kicked off that really long extended run against the Hawks that was initially 15-0 and turned into a 24-4 run where they extended the lead to 66-41. And then let me do some quick math. It was 75-45. And it was Payne's energy that got that going. And similarly in the Suns game, like he hit a transition 3 on the right wing, then had an outlet to Shamet for a layup, then hit Deuce for that 3 that you mentioned. Had a crossover to where he absolutely toasted. I'm going to forget which Martin it was. I think Cody Martin is currently on the Suns. I should know. I'm going to a bunch of Suns games this year. And then slipped it back late to like on a late dive for Cat for like a gorgeous up and under. Like had a nice pick and roll with Mitch where Mitch took 2 guys to the rim. Cam hit a floater. Like I thought having both those guys back, Cam for 2 games, Deuce for 1, were absolutely essential. DeLon Wright, maybe we'll give him a quick shout at the end. You were missed, buddy. That probably could have used his defense as another guy to throw at Devin Booker. I was a little sad to see him leave the rotation because he's just been playing so well. But it was great to have those guys back, and Cam and Deuce in particular, such a nice chemistry. I think having both of them out there, you kind of get a greater than the sum of their parts effect. But Alex, we haven't touched on Mikal Bridges, haven't touched on Karl-Anthony Towns, both of whom had eventful weekends. We'll get into all that in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. All right, we want to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, seriously, just a week away or so. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props from 3-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, what's up, guys? We are back here on Locked On Knicks. Maybe we'll touch on the Suns game a little bit more, but to your point, the Knicks also get a dominant 121-105 victory over the Atlanta Hawks. They're up by something like 34 points in the third quarter. To your point, it never really felt super competitive. But Alex, I'll let you choose where to go next. I thought we got 2 really nice back-to-back games from Mikal Bridges over the weekend. Cat was spectacular against the Hawks. I thought it was more so solid and had a really funky fourth quarter against the Suns that kind of helped Phoenix get back into that game. But good weekend from both those guys, up and down weekend for Josh Hart. Where do you want to head next?
Yeah, I would go Cat. I mean, I'm with you. I think that the close in the Phoenix game, maybe not the best, but the second quarter, I mean, he completely buoyed them, which was great. So that part of the Phoenix game was amazing, but the overall effort against Atlanta was just fantastic. I mean, he was just like unstoppable. I mean, they didn't have anyone that they seemed to be able to throw at him that could make any sort of a difference. He was just basically doing most of his damage on the inside, which is great. I mean, obviously you want to see him make the threes when he can, but only ended up making 2 of them. And for the most part was just like getting inside, bullying his way in, playing strong. And honestly, that's kind of what I want to see him working on for these last 5 games or so anyway. I mean, I think the three-point shooting is for the most part always going to be there for him, but as we get closer into the playoffs, like yeah, when you get into playoff basketball, threes are awesome, and I'm sure that he'll have some opportunities to make some really impactful threes for the Knicks at some point during the playoffs. Which I hope that for him, and I hope he gets that moment for like his hometown team and everything. But for the most part, like a lot of what wins you games in the playoffs is like, can you get inside? Can you finish through 30% more contact than you saw during the regular season? And I think unfortunately, like we saw some of the trappings of what the worst of Cat can be at times. And I think maybe more so in the Phoenix game of just like the complaining over not getting calls and stuff like that. And hopefully he's able to kind of leave some of that in the regular season, and kind of work that out of his game for the next couple weeks. Although I would argue it's maybe gotten a little worse in recent weeks than better, unfortunately. But like as we get closer to the playoffs, he's going to need to kind of just buckle down and be like, hey, like most of my damage is just going to have to be like right next to the hoop or at the 3-point line. And I'm liking that we're seeing him at least like commit more towards getting inside, going to the little hook shots, looking to seek contact, stuff like that. And I think we saw more of that in the Hawks game to greater effect. And then obviously, like I said, I think the second quarter against Phoenix was really good for that as well. Just a lot of good finishes on the inside through contact and, shrugging off contact to a degree rather than kind of selling it, which is good, because finishing through it is better than just trying to generate the free throws or whatever. So all in all, I was pretty satisfied with the 2 games over the weekend, even if it was a little more rocky in the Phoenix game.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I disagree with the idea. I know this is exactly what you're saying, but the Cat like should shoot like less threes or focus more on going inside in the playoffs. We just obviously watched the Celtics win a title shooting more threes than anyone in NBA history. Cat just under 43% from distance. So and it's funny. I've had to watch the Suns broadcast being here in Phoenix, and they mentioned like this is the lowest 3-point rate he's had since 2018-19, which I'm not even sure that I realized. And I looked and I was like, yep, they're right. He's only taking 4.8 per game. I've talked about in recent episodes, like Payne and DeLon Wright and Kolek, like all seeking that shot out for Cat. I hope that is something that continues with Brunson back. We didn't see a ton of it in the Suns game, and like I give them a lot of grace because that was the first game back for everyone. But I do want to see him like keep shooting threes. And to your point, like there's like a time and place. Like he in the fourth quarter when they were in the midst of that long stretch, he took a logo 3 like 4 seconds into the shot clock. And I think I said earlier in the year, like Cat can't shoot a bad 3. I would probably even admit that was a bad 3. So it is about finding the balance. Obviously, you don't want to lose his inside game. And I think something that is really exciting about his inside game is that we are with increased frequency seeing him drive and kick, which is something that was basically non-existent for him, at least as far as I've watched, until the last 8 games of the season where he's making like live dribble, spray out for threes. He had one early in this game where like Mikal drove, slung it back to him, relocated to the corner. Cat went right at Dyson Daniels, then no look to the corner, back to Mikal. Like that is huge because the way we've seen teams, particularly Boston, just completely stymie Cat is by throwing 2 guys at him, and then Cat against like a fast, intelligent, lengthy defense is not really able to figure out like where he's supposed to go with the basketball with any kind of quickness, like even slower than someone like Julius Randle was making some of those passes. And like at times I think he just gets frustrated and then tries to drive and score on 2 or 3 guys. That is not going to work. So I think Boston is going to be a much better test of that than either Phoenix or Atlanta was, but just something I'm watching. I thought it was interesting how the Knicks used him on defense in these 2 games, particularly in the Hawks game. Really smart from Tom Thibodeau, using him at the level against Trae Young and basically just blitzing Trae Young, kind of similar to how the Wolves played defense 2 or 3 seasons ago, and saying like, hey, like literally anyone else like can beat us. And of course the Hawks couldn't. They tried to do a little bit of that against Devin Booker, and like that was maybe the one thing we didn't mention from the Suns game. And if there's one demerit on OG Anunoby, it's that he's struggled to guard Devin Booker this season. Booker had 20 in the first half, 38 by the first few minutes of the third quarter, finished with an efficient 40 on a night where literally nothing else was going for the Suns. The rest of the Suns team shot 2 for 27 from three. But I thought it was a really, like, a few mistakes mixed in here or there. I thought it was a good defensive weekend for Towns, a good passing weekend for Towns. The scoring in the Hawks game, like, we don't have time to go, or I don't have time to go into it, but what was incredible inside outside in that second quarter was unholy against the Suns.
Yeah, for sure. And to move to the next guy on the list here, Mikal Bridges, also a really good weekend. To your point, he against Atlanta ends with 20 points, 9 of 13 shooting, 2 of 3 from three, 5 assists in that one. Obviously, different game in that one than the next game, because he was still having to handle the ball more and stuff like that. And second on the team, or tied for second on the team in assists. It was interesting seeing. I feel like he was the guy, or he is going to be the guy that with Brunson's return is going to have to change things the most about how he's been playing lately, in that the Knicks aren't going to look to have him bring the ball down as much. Like, Tibbs isn't going to have him, he's still going to have Josh Hart bring it down sometimes and try to initiate and whatever to give Brunson his little bit of time off the ball or whatever. And, use Hart in the same way that he was being used prior to Brunson going down. But I wonder if Bridges is going to see that scale back a bit. I feel like we did already kind of see it start to go that way, although he still managed to eke out 4 assists in the Phoenix game. And, I think that they didn't like fully pull it back. So I'm hoping that he's kind of still utilized in that way, because I think that was another beneficial thing, just like learning that OG can be this like dynamite scorer that he's been, to have Mikal like be able to still have his hands on the ball more, which I think encourages him to shoot the ball more and be more involved in the offense, which he was in the Phoenix game as well, with ended with actually 22 points, so slightly better scoring output, 8 of 14 from the field, 2 of 3 from three, got to the free throw line 4 times, still dished 4 assists. Like, I like seeing him being more utilized, and I think that that's the quickest way to take him out of a game is to just park him in the corner and have him be a spectator, get the ball in his hands more, have Jalen Brunson work off ball, have OG Anunoby work off ball, whatever. I think the more that they commit to doing that going forward with this full strength version of the team, the better they could potentially be, and the more playoff proof they could potentially be, where you're not just reliant on Jalen Brunson being the driving force of pretty much everything and just kicking it out to shooters or whatever, which has at times been tough for the Knicks to, advance in the playoffs on that, depending on, the matchup and what the opposing team throws at him or whatever. It's basically always on Jalen Brunson to figure that out. But if you keep the ball in Mikal Bridges' hands, sometimes you keep the ball in OG Anunoby's hands sometimes, like, I think things are going to work out well for the Knicks. And this weekend was kind of proof of it, where they kept the ball in Mikal's hands, not as much, but still a decent amount in that Phoenix game, and he made the most out of it.
I mean, to your point, it's just going to lead to more bang for your buck from Brunson, right? Like lower usage, more energy, more efficiency down the stretch of games. And look, Brunson's a warrior. He's been incredible, getting asked to carry a load that there's like a list of maybe 5 guys in NBA history that like have been asked to carry a load over like multiple playoff runs that he has, and like he's been up for it, and he's produced, and he's been incredible. But against the best teams in the league, like it is, I don't know if that is a sustainable direction to winning. And also, like I think we're seeing, like, you get an OG Anunoby that is more engaged defensively, like when he's getting the ball in his hands a lot. You're getting a Mikal Bridges that's more engaged defensively when the ball is in his hands a lot. You're getting 2 guys who are like better in catch and shoot situations when they have time to feel and dribble the basketball. So it's a downwind effect. But again, maybe that's a conversation for another day. I thought two really good games from Mikal. Like the Suns one is the one that lingered in my mind a little bit more. Like even early on in the game, I had that like nasty hesitation burst, like right by Oso Ighodaro for a layup. Got really hot from the corners, like late in the second quarter, like hit a left wing 3, a right wing long 2, and then another left wing catch and shoot 3, like all inside the final 4 minutes or so of the second. And then just a bunch of clutch buckets. Because remember, the Suns cut it to 5 multiple times, like from 17 down, like late in the fourth quarter. He beats Tyus Jones to the rim on an inbound for a lay. And then OG made a really nice play where like they doubled him, almost stripped him. OG probably traveled, got away with it. And Mikal, great job making himself available, cuts baseline, stays involved. OG hits him. He hits a big shot. That was a shot he was constantly missing in big moments earlier this year. That made it 99-92. And then like a big time defensive play after the Suns missed. Nick Richards wide open under the rim with a chance to cut it back to 5. Bradley Beal had total tunnel vision, drove baseline. Brunson slid over to help after he beat Bridges, and Bridges recovered, swatted his layup. That was a big block. So really nice weekend for Mikal Bridges. I'm with you. I'm looking at that assist number that until like all-star break was hovering around, was between 3 and 3.5 every month of the season, averaged 5.1 assists per game in March, and is currently averaging 4 assists per game in April. So I'm hoping that stays high. That means he's involved. I think his passing has been fantastic for this team, and I hope we continue to see it. And Alex, I don't know if you had any final notes on any of the other guys, but I think that might just about wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll just shout out Mitchell Robinson for
Mm-hmm.
a really nice block in the Suns game, which then led to a transition bucket and then led to Clyde singing while Mitch was on the screen about how much he loves the Knicks ball movement when they're moving and grooving. So yeah, just really more of a Clyde shout out than anything, than a Mitch shout out. But Mitch had the block that led to the play that led to Clyde singing on TV. So always love seeing that. But yeah, I think we're going to come back with a little. We'll both make our case one way or the other. Seems like we're going to have a nice, compelling episode if we're talking about the OG star turn or would-be star turn. So we're going to talk about that in our next one, and then of course have you covered for all the games this week. Big close to the season for the Knicks coming up, so we'll have you covered every step of the way. But until then, thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you all soon. Peace out, everybody.